Hello, Park family. Welcome to another episode of Conversations at the Park. I am here today with the one and only esteemed colleague of mine, Jamie Simmons. Jamie has been a youth minister here for the last several years, and Jamie, you and I have been friends for a good little while.
Yes.
Even back before our days apart together. Singing together and camp together and all kinds of stuff. So I've known and loved Jamie for a long time, and you've gone through, different roles in different churches, and so having different roles and transition from one to the other. But I would dare say that the past year of your life has brought more transition than you have ever experienced before, and even knew what was coming.
Yeah, so you could definitely chalk it up to a transition. This time last year, I was strictly, I was doing youth ministry, but I was also in grad school.
Mm-hmm.
But then last December, I graduated with my master's in counseling. That doesn't make me a counselor, but that definitely gives me a degree to work towards licensure, which I'll try to accomplish in the next couple of years.
Sure.
But then graduating, and then transitioning now from youth ministry, which I've been doing for about 6 years here at the park, to a new ministry called the Young Adult Ministry that will start up full swing here in August. And then recently, as in the last 3 weeks, new baby. So it's been transition.
So let's start with the really important stuff.
Please.
How's that baby girl doing?
Oh, she's great. So Jada Kay was born on June 25th at 12:01 a.m.
Wow.
She was not wanting to be born on the 24th.
The first baby born on June 25th, 2020.
She was like, I beat everybody. Already a competitor. But no, so she was 8 pounds, 6 ounces, 21 inches, healthy baby.
Yeah. That's so great. You and Katie Jo are going to be just the best parents. I'm so excited for you guys. I know we're all looking forward to meeting and loving on that baby in due time. That will come to pass. I know it's been. I assume it's been a little bit difficult doing this. How's it been doing? You've seen and experienced lots of friends having babies, and you know kind of what the rhythms of the community are around that. How has that been different for you guys doing this during the pandemic?
Well, that's a very interesting question because we've had several of our friends having children, and but then this season with us, kind of in the midst of a pandemic that we're in, I will say it's actually been quite a blessing.
Wow.
Because, and here's the thing is, yes, we're being very cautious. Yes, we are trying to make sure that we're safe, make sure our baby is safe, but we have experienced the blessing in full engulfment, if I could say, of this congregation. It was this congregation and many of our friends and family that have prayed Jada into this world. Yeah. And we have felt truly blessed by that. And just looking at her every day, we get to see the miracle of God right before our eyes. So it really is, you kind of hear this cliche saying, it takes a village to raise a child, but it is also this village that has helped bring her into this world.
When you experience it, you realize it's less of a cliche.
Yeah.
And more just, it's true. It's so much a part of reality. Yeah. And man, we could go into your journey of how JDK got here and all that, which is maybe for another time, because that's a long story full of miracles and blessings.
Oh yeah.
And even some struggles in of itself, but we're excited to meet that baby girl.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you, and thank you to the park. Love you guys.
Yeah. Super exciting. And recently here at your job,
Mm-hmm.
you have taken on a new role that you mentioned a minute ago of young adult minister. So tell us just from a real, a 30,000-foot view, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't start that description without kind of, in hindsight, looking at where we've been
Sure.
In our journey here at the park. Our youth staff, I would put up against any other youth staff in the world. I mean, we are blessed here
No
at
doubt
the
about
park,
it. No doubt
and Mike Johns, Kelsey Carter, their spouses. It has been a true blessing working with such talented people as them.
I wish everyone in the youth ministry, all the kids, knew just to what extent they were blessed.
Oh man, it's ridiculous.
By how you guys have been with them the past number of years. The talent, the heart, the mind, just being able to lead people through Scripture in a really deep and meaningful, impactful way, while also being incredibly relational, relationally adept, and being fun and joy filled at the same time. That's kind of needed in youth ministries. That you can't have one without the other.
That's right.
And so, oh my goodness, you're exactly right. Top tier, absolutely top tier staff that you've been a part of.
So we have been. My wife and I have been so blessed being here at the park, working with Mike and Brittany and Kelsey and Bryce, and it's just been great. But every year since I've been here, it has been a struggle of our youth staff for what is next. And we pour so much, and as we talked about just moments ago, we pour so many resources and energy and love into our kids, helping them mature into young adults. And then what? Then we send them out, whether that's to college or we send them out to the workforce, whatever it is, it's almost like we send them out and it's like, okay, we'll see when you come back home, right? And it was quite difficult for several years just to kind of fully continue that ministry into their adult years. And so by the grace of God, through our shepherds here, our elders, and the ministry staff and their vision, we're now able to, from children's ministry into youth ministry, now into this new ministry called young adult ministry, be able to minister to them virtually, birth to death now. Yeah. So we're really excited for this new chapter.
And that's huge just in the scope of the life of a congregation. Yeah. And what this means for a family that moves to town, who, if they've got little kids, I'm like, jackpot.
Right.
We've got your people, we've got your place. You're gonna be loved. There's some in the life of every congregation. You can look and maybe see some gaps of who is really being ministered to, and who may feel left out, who may feel like they may not be in the core group, and how we're ministering to them. And so I love this effort, starting this new young adult ministry, just to kind of make sure birth to death, we're covering everybody.
That's right.
And your whole family can move here, and we can know how to intentionally love you and bless you and work with you and grow with you.
That's it.
That's huge. So a great blessing for just this ministry being added to the park, and I think you're the right person for it. Wow. What's been the journey for you to kind of transitioning your mind and heart from youth ministry into this young adult ministry?
Yeah, it's again, it's a blessing too, because we've had such a great tenure here, to 6 years to cultivate and establish these relationships. And now moving into this young adult ministry, there have been 6 years of investment into kids and teens, now into adults that are going into this next stage. And so we get to continue those relationships that we built, but also expand those into to new relationships and new opportunities for us. So you used the word moments ago of intentional, and that's exactly what we want to do here in this ministry, is be very intentional all the way to the breakdown of our ministry, having the three age demographics that we're going to be ministering to, and that's the college age group, but not really limited to college goers, right? We want the whole gamut, right? Yeah. And then the second group is the new young professionals. We're still kind of playing with the nomenclature of it all, but sure. Those that are entering into the workforce, entering into their careers. What do they do after they graduate college or whatever? And then the third one I'm really excited about, which is the new engaged, newly married class, not class, but group, where we get to now, with an intentional group, help them connect with each other, create that nucleus that they need to eventually transition into young families, right? And so I think God is before us, really helping us organize not only these three groups, but we have people that are ready to go to help with each and every group, to help mentor, help foster those communities. So we're really excited.
And I don't want to go too far without giving some credit to the past, and how this is not the first time any young adult college ministry has, but so the work of even going back to Dave Skidmore, and even so Clint Hill and Lynn Stringfellow, and the ministry that those guys did, laid kind of a groundwork for showing us what's necessary for mentoring and developing disciples in this age group. Mm-hmm. And so I want to give plenty of credit to where credit's due with those guys, and the ministries that they've created and moved on with. We're really excited about what this new iteration of this, I guess, is going to be. And so as you look at this age group, mm-hmm. It's not that you and I are like so far removed from this. We understand a little bit of the mentality of this and how they think. What are you seeing when you look at college students and just out of that demographic, the group that you're looking at? What do you see with them? What's their heart for, and what are some ways that you maybe hope to engage with that and develop that towards a wholeness, a fullness, understanding the fullness of God, living into the fullness of Christ likeness? Kind of, where do you see them, and where do you see them transitioning to in this ministry?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think we're still under kind of this investigation of what that looks like. But I think as we start looking at this age demographic, and then I reflect on my own journey in life, I think the word that comes up to me is direction. We all look for, the question that gets asked more times to a college age person is, so what do you want to do? Yeah. What do you want to be? Right? And so really trying to help those to find direction. But what's interesting about now this evolving culture that we're in now is this the direction is kind of being delayed a little bit. We're seeing more students actually going either to college but then coming home, or pursuing higher education, master's and PhD level, to then kind of have that not progressing to that next stage as quickly as we've seen in the past. Sure. And so they're kind of waiting to move to the next step. And so providing a ministry that kind of helps people in that direction and in that vision of their life. So we're seeing, higher education, people waiting to go to the next step in transitioning in life later and later and later. We're also seeing, let's just face it, people being single a lot longer,
Sure.
right? Not wanting to be too hasty and moving to that next chapter, which is great. Being single is a great thing.
Praise God.
Praise God for those that are single. But what we want to do is just kind of help in that direction. If that is a desire of theirs, to help them pursue what that looks like, what a godly relationship looks like. So,
sure. What does a godly life look like being single?
And being single, absolutely. And so then, as people transition into that next stage of life, then it's like, okay, now what do we do? So I guess this word that keeps coming up for me is direction.
Sure.
But then also kind of in the same vein of direction, kind of moving past this culture of self. If we look at kind of the trends of culture in the 80s, 90s, and now into the 2000s, like the elevation of self is really prevalent, and we almost exonerate the self in the self-help books and the DIY things, like how can I do things myself? Which is okay in a sense, but then when we elevate ourselves to the throne of our life, that's where it becomes a problem.
Maybe it used to be more subtle, but I've seen even recently the not so subtle. It's great life advice just to learn how to love yourself.
Yes.
And sure, there's maybe some aspects of that
Absolutely.
that you don't want to just totally throw out the baby with the bathwater. But the idea that the love of myself and following my heart is the best advice for one's life.
Mm-hmm.
For me, following my heart and what I kind of feel like doing in the moment is some of the worst advice I could give myself.
Absolutely. I don't want to. I'm going to step on some toes here.
Sure.
By saying that, following your heart is actually anti-biblical.
Yes.
It is not biblical at all, because the heart is deceitful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It longs to satisfy the cravings of the flesh. Right?
Yeah.
But it is up to us, where then Jesus comes along and he says, those who want to be my disciple, those who want to follow me, you got to die to yourself. Then pick up your cross and follow me. And even in that, I've also seen this notion of if things happen to me, if suffering does come my way, then it's actually bad for me. But that's not true.
Yeah.
Right? We see more times in the New Testament where suffering is actually an okay thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That we are actually called, as disciples of Jesus Christ, we are called to suffer for him, for the sake of the gospel.
If my own personal happiness is my ultimate ethic, is the ultimate thing that I strive for, then any suffering that I'm going through is going to be just a roadblock and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But in the biblical worldview, the worldview that God has created, suffering has purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually can be a blessing.
That's right. And so what we're talking about here is actually kind of a crux of a book that I've been reading, and it's called Disappearing Church by Mark Sayers, excuse me. And Mark Sayers is kind of, towards the beginning of the book, is kind of talking about culture and where we are at right now.
Yeah, Mark Sayers is a big cultural, he studies culture.
Yes.
At a real high level, yeah.
And so what he's doing in this book towards the beginning is he goes back to the 60s, to the 70s and 80s, and he helps us see the trends of culture into modern day, what's happening now.
Yeah.
And he talks about and really kind of opens our eyes to this world culture that we're now in, even in the United States, of kind of teetering and flirting with a post-Christian mentality, a post-Christian culture. And where we as the church, we have to be cognizant and ready for that. Right? It's not something to look at 20-somethings and just say, oh, well, we're going to just kind of keep our distance until they mature and then try to reel them back in. That'll never work. What we must do is we have to understand the culture in which we are in and then step with them in it. So, Mark Sayers does a great job. He talks about Gnosticism and this what we've been talking about, the exoneration or the exaltation of self and kind of feeding our own pleasure and being in the throne of that. But then he moves towards the end of his book. So what do we do with that, right? If that is our real culture, then what do we move towards? And it's really Jesus. Right, we've got to be able to see Jesus. I love in the gospel, and I'm not trying to get too preachy here, but what I love in the gospel in Luke 9, right, we see in the Mount of Transfiguration, right, Jesus brings up Peter, James, and John up to the mount, right, and then right before them, the cloud envelops them, and right before them, what a sight it would be, right, to see Moses and Elijah with Jesus. Right, you're talking about the dream team of dream teams, right? Right. How cool would that have been?
The ultimate big three.
The ultimate big three. And so in this scene, you see these three figures, and man, I relate to Peter. Man, I relate to Peter. He gets so excited. He's like, I want to take a snapshot of what is going on. Like, we want to remember this. So he's like, I'm going to build an altar over here. I'm going to build an altar over here. And then I'm going to remember this. And then we see what brings me to tears is the mountains start to shake. And God speaks. Then it's this is my son, whom I love, with him I'm well pleased. Listen to him. They're the authority factor. And then, just like me, as I relate to Peter, falls straight to his face and tries to cover himself like an ostrich would with his head in the sand, right? And then what I love about that scene is this. It says that, and then they looked up, and they saw no one except Jesus. I think that's where we need to be at in culture. That despite what all the things we want to remember, like this epic world that we're in, right? We want to take selfies and snapshots and remember moments. If we can find contentment in where we are at and look up and only see Jesus, man, what things would kind of fall into place.
And know that that's enough.
And know that Jesus is enough.
Wow. Just going back for just a second, if you want to dive a little bit more into these cultural studies of Mark Sayers and what Jamie was talking about, the book Disappearing Church is a good reference. Full disclosure, I haven't read that. But if you're a podcast person, This Cultural Moment is a podcast with Mark Sayers and John Mark Comer out of Portland. And they go real deep into this kind of stuff, and it's incredible. But you're right. The understanding that I can look up and see Jesus and see that that's enough, and I don't even need to add self to that. Mm-hmm. Jesus is enough. Mm-hmm. So how does that work in developing young people from a almost a self-centered mentality that they've been almost handed?
Yeah,
it's so much a part of the culture that it's kind of a radical idea to think, no, I'm not just in this for myself.
Yeah. Well, it's this culture of Jesus and.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's like, I have Jesus, but then I have my career.
Yeah.
I have Jesus and my marriage. I have Jesus and this and that and the other. But really, all we need is Jesus. Because once we have Jesus, once we know Jesus and He is on the throne of our life, then all of the other things fall into place.
It's all about Jesus.
All about Jesus.
It's all about Jesus. Well, Jamie, we're very, very excited for you and your new ministry, and and if the direction that you want to go with the ministry is Jesus, I've got a pretty good feeling about it.
Yeah.
And I think you're the right guy for it. People are drawn to you and look to you, and this demographic is going to be blessed by having your leadership and just your personality and your love and heart for them. You and Katie Jo, along with an incredibly cute daughter, that's gonna help as well. She's gonna be a powerhouse, man.
That's right. If she takes after her mother, then yes, she
and
will.
you guys are gonna be just fine.
And that's something too that we look forward to. Is my wife Katie Jo and I, we are so giddy. I'll use that word.
Sure.
We are so giddy to be able to do ministry together. We did, yes, youth ministry together, but she still kind of had her job, right? That she did. Now being home with our daughter Jada, now we actually get to do ministry together, where she is going to be heading up, the young ladies classes and trying to mentor and help those young women mature into even greater women of God. So I'm so pleased and thankful to this church for allowing both, not only myself, but for my wife as well, this opportunity to step into young adult ministry.
Praise God.
Amen.
Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too. Thank you.
And you guys have a really great week. Love you. See you next time.
Bye.